Thank you. All right, I'd like to call to order the Morgantown Utility Board regular meeting for Tuesday, July 12th, 2022. The first order would be approval of the minutes of the regular meeting from June 14th, 2022, which we all had in our read ahead.
I move to approve the minutes for the regular meeting of June 14, 2022 as submitted.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second to approve the minutes of June 14. Any corrections or deletions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Public portion? Anybody in the audience like to speak to the board? Seeing none, we'll move on to new business. Construction equipment replacement.
Yes, thank you, JT. This year we had put in the budget for the purchase of a new tractor-mounted combination backhoe and front loader, 2 hydraulic excavators, and 2 equipment trailers. And to help offset that cost, we would like to trade in a 1995 Caterpillar backhoe, a 2006 Kubota excavator, a 1991 model John Deere backhoe, and a 2003 model Daewoo excavator. And so once we go out to bid and see what our final pricing will be, then we'll come back to the board to approve the actual contract and the financing. But we wanted to have the board approve going out to bid and trading in that equipment.
Okay. So we're looking for a motion for that.
I'll motion to approve advertising for the purchase of 1 new tractor-mounted combination backhoe and front loader, 2 new hydraulic excavators, and 2 new equipment trailers, and offset the cost of the new equipment by trading in the 1995 Caterpillar backhoe, 2006 Kubota excavator, the 1991 John Deere backhoe, and the 2003 Daewoo excavator.
Okay. Motion and a second to approve the purchase of the 5 pieces of equipment and the 4 trade-ins. Questions on the motion?
Just one question. Would you put that out for advertisement? How long will the bid, when would we open bids?
Typically, we'll do 2 advertisements a week apart, about 30 days is I think typically what we'll do.
So will we have it in time for the next board meeting then?
I would hope so. I would think we should have it for the August board meeting.
Because I knew the lead time there in 30 days is almost the time for the next board meeting.
So, and of course, my thought was if there was a problem, we would ask for a special meeting to get everything put together.
And speaking of lead time, will the trade-ins occur as the orders are happening? And if so, how long is it going to take for the new equipment to come in if there is the type of backups that we've been seeing with supply chain and getting new equipment?
We would anticipate the trade-ins would occur when the new equipment arrives.
Okay, good.
So everybody's we all have to be on the honor system a bit there.
Have you done any exploration with potential dealers as to what kind of supply chain problems are in getting this kind of equipment?
Yes, we have.
Okay.
Right now, I don't think it's going to be too bad. They're saying that they can get the equipment, so it's not they're not talking about big lead times. Not like vehicles. Or the Ford 750 dump truck that you approved last year was canceled. Ford said, "I'm sorry, we're canceling the order." So, but I think we should be okay on these from what Joey McDonald, our superintendent, has checked with the different equipment companies. No one indicated it would be a problem.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Water treatment plant pump.
Yes, we got the Brownsfield grant to take down the Dinsmore building in the old bicycle shop. So I'll have a little bit more on that later, but we had always anticipated the new pump house being in that location. So we've gone ahead and advertised for engineering services so we can start the process of getting companies in and get a preliminary engineering report so we can get an opinion of cost what we would be looking at. So that's more of an update than anything. We're just getting started now. We'll be back to the board when that VER is completed.
Okay. Question about that. Is that going to be purely for the pump itself, or will we have other types of equipment included in that building? For example, don't we have a boat that has to be used on the water when we go around and look at the various discharge points? And I don't know where that's stored. Is there a need for additional space beyond what would be required for the pump to facilitate additional growth and development? Or
Some office space would probably fit very nicely there. That we would really like to have some additional space for some of the staff there that are working, literally doing all their paperwork on lab counters, where they can have an office to work from.
that'd be good.
And there would be some other improvements, and we made it a very broad advertisement because we have some other things around the plant that are, sand basins need some attention and some things like that. So we would try to do a catch-all.
It would be an appropriate time to sort of do a process examination of how things are currently configured and see if there could be improved through relocation, like you say, of things to the new building.
Maybe just have to carry it all about brownfields matching grants or something, just to help out whenever you figure an office or something like that.
No, I haven't. I need to contact her though. I have a little report later on about the Brownsville grant, where our next steps will be, and so I'm planning to give her a call later this week or next week, so we can get together. Rich is on vacation, and so we can talk about the next step coming up in the process. So right now we are on track. Everything is on track with VBA.
I'll see you tomorrow. I'll give her a little heads up. She can start some things up and Monday. She might have some information.
Okay, great. We always like to hear.
Okay. Executive session confidential.
Let Jeff talk about that.
So, recently, the West Virginia Ethics Commission issued an opinion saying that the contents of executive sessions are not confidential under the Open Governmental Meetings Act. But the opinion went on to say that any governing body can issue a policy, adopt a policy, saying their minutes, their meetings, executive sessions are confidential. So that's what I've drafted, and it's in your packet for the board to adopt the policy.
Okay. Question on those comments, and we're looking for a motion to approve.
Go ahead.
I was just going to ask if this was basically can we plagiarize another board that I work with? We may need to do that. Is this something that you got from other bodies, or is this something you wrote directly?
This is something I wrote directly.
Okay, well then we'll talk to our legal counsel then, so we don't plagiarize you.
I move to approve the executive session confidentiality policy as presented with an executed copy thereof to be included with the minutes of this meeting.
Second.
Okay, motion and second to approve the executive session confidentiality policy as presented. Questions on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So that's the end of new business. Before we go to old business, Jenny, you missed the public portion.
Yes.
But you're more than welcome to, we'll back it up for you. Okay. You know the process, right? Name, rank, serial number, and all that stuff. Jenny Celine.
Jenny Celine. I live on Fairlawn, so you all have been doing a lot of work on lately that I'm not going to be talking about tonight.
Okay.
And in the city of Morgantown, and I happen to serve as the mayor in the city of Morgantown. So
Okay.
I'm just here in the public portion, requesting that you all consider how we can best move forward with the recreation planning for the new reservoir. And that you consider that lots of other, that we've all been talking about recreation on the reservoir, and that if you look up reservoirs and recreation, it's done all over the country. We were looking it up today. And that we'd been contemplating hiking, biking, boating, picnic areas like a couple of picnic tables, having bathrooms and parking. And that the city is contemplating using ARPA funds to create a design. There's already been a feasibility study for the trail work that's available, and I'm not certain what you all have or don't have right at this moment, or but that could be provided to you if you don't currently have it. But so there's a feasibility study for that, but there's not a construction plan or document, in part because we would feel better with some kind of memorandum of understanding that we're all in agreement that there be recreation there before we spend probably $200,000 in ARPA funds for planning. So that would include a bridge, and that's part of why why there's that cost attached to it. But before we would do that, we would want to make sure that there was a general understanding that there be recreation there, and that there be some sort of an MOU, a really basic couple paragraph MOU in place. And then we would work on a plan that then, if it was at all in conflict with you all's mission of providing water, that we would modify it to that effect. But obviously we wouldn't be having gas motors. We talked about not having swimming. I'm not sure whether that's necessary or not necessary, but we would talk about the particulars, but it would be more of a general agreement. So that's my piece. You've heard it before. But I would like to, we talked about kind of getting things unstuck and getting them moving. I'm in favor of that. So whatever you all can do, and we've got at least one meeting set up to work through the particulars, but whatever you all can do to keep things moving from your end, we will work on keeping things moving from our end.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you, Jenny.
I'm going to a neighborhood picnic, so I'm not going to listen to the end of your meeting, but
Hopefully there are more than two
there's
tables.
only one neighborhood picnic in my neighborhood a year. I'm going to go.
Okay, so move them back up to old business. Coben Creek Reservoir.
Well, I had hoped to tell you this evening that the dam was up to height, but we haven't had very good weather, so they probably have at least 2 lifts left. But if they dry out tomorrow, by Saturday they should be up. So that's of course there's a long way to go, just besides that. But that's good progress, because then the engineers can start the process of the settling will start, and the engineers will monitor that, and hopefully, having set the winter, we won't see much in that respect.
Will they be putting ground cover on the dam once it reaches its top, so that grass or some other type of vegetation will be there
On the downstream side
right.
above the riprap
Right.
to the top? I believe there'll be grass, and then grass up on top as
Right.
well.
But they haven't done that until they top it off.
Right, that'll be when they're finished up.
Okay.
As part of the Coben Creek project, we had to find a remediation project, which was took down an old dam on Fike Run and did a lot of stream improvements. Ken Hacker, one of our senior engineers, is with us this evening to have a video presentation for the board.
Perfect.
How Fike Run looks today.
Perfect.
I do not have any befores, but I will gladly bring that back to you soon. This video is actually from June 1st of this year.
Will it be on YouTube?
Yes, this should broadcast as well on YouTube. So I'm just going to play our drone footage and then talk over it as we fly through it. Questions, feel free to. So we are starting at the lowermost portion of the project, the North Preston Highway. Runs here, and the drone is going to be flying upstream. So you can see the in-stream structures that were installed throughout the project. There's approximately 70 of those that are in the main stem of Fike Run. You can see standing water as we go up through here on both sides of the project. Those are the wetlands that were created as removing the water body of this lake. Here is the old dam location that was removed in the first phase of the project. You can see the vegetation hasn't quite taken off there as well, but again, this is from June 1st, and growing season was just taking off at this spot. It's very cold up there. Growing season is probably a month and a half delayed from what it is in Morgantown. So as of today, vegetation is much more dense and lush up there than it was on June 1st. There's basically constructed riffles, and then there are log seals that were part of some of the rock cross veins. So if you look closely at some of these, you can see actual logs that were brought in locally and used as part of these structures. More wet areas over to the left. You can see the small tributaries that are starting to or have formed and are coming into Fike Run. I believe, according to our as-built report, we've created about 44 more than what was anticipated. They knew there would be more with the design happening before the lake was drained. They weren't quite expecting that many. And here's some wetland area that's forming. We don't have a square footage on the wetland that was created because it's still early on. You can just see the vegetation that's coming in. You can't see the specific trees and shrubs that were planted on both sides of the stream, but there's thousands of those that were put in as part of this. Again, just small tributaries that all formed. This was all underwater. You can see the old water line that ran here and back here where the vegetation changed. We're still within the old lake bed. See the various different stream structures. And as we round this bend and head towards the upper stretch of Fike Run, you can see the vegetation change, notably right in this area. This was completed in the first year of construction. What we just flew through was the most recent constructed. So this is the vegetation, what it's going to look like as of today if we went back up and looked at a drone video from today. This up through here is about a year older or a year more mature than what the first half of the project was. So as we continue on, you can see how the stream meanders. We've got the different types of structures. There's a log seal, here's a rock vein. There's also various lengths of what they call root wads that were installed within the curves of the stream to help stabilize the stream banks and also create habitat.
Whoa, what was that?
The birds find our drone quite interesting up there. We've seen all kinds of wildlife up there. We just got back the draft as-built report from Potesta. Going through it and the summary, everything looks good. It's stable. We are now into the monitoring phase of this project. So we will be going to the Army Corps of Engineers soon to show them how the construction went, the end result of the project, and sort of work with them on a plan over monitoring for the next 5 years to see how the project matures and what it develops into. And at that point, we'll be able to determine how much wetland we created, along with, what these small tributaries, if they develop into more, or the thought is maybe some of them will combine and we'll get a longer single tributary versus, a bunch of these shorter. So, but yeah, I do want to do a before and after comparison of the project, and especially during construction, once the lake was drained, it's really impressive to see how it came back and the vegetation and everything that's taken off there. So,
Are there any beaver up there?
currently there is not. There was in the past.
If I were a beaver, boy, that would be enticing.
Yeah, it's one of the things that we have to watch for, or that's in the monitoring, to take count of what wildlife comes back.
It'll be interesting just to see 5 years from now
Yeah,
what establishes itself there.
I think the vegetation is going to grow so much that it's probably going to be hard to see the stream in 5 years from everything that was planted and how things have been growing there.
But we'll have to have someone go in there after 5 years and inventory all the wetlands then.
So what we have to do is each year we have to go in and do an inspection and an assessment of the benthic life and the plants and the stream stability. So each year we're going to be building on the previous year's cross sections and determining that and seeing how much of wetlands are actually created.
Is that all mapped on GIS then?
Yes, yeah. So they've went out and surveyed it all in, and they're providing us with a file of all that. So.
I apologize. I'm asking probably for a remedial explanation, but Mike, you had said this was part of the requirements for the new Coburn Creek Dam. Could you explain a little bit about how this process worked and what the kind of backstory is on this?
Well, I'm going to let Ken talk more about that, because those decisions were made prior to my arrival. But when the dam was, when the reservoir was built, what we were taking away, we had to add somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was the trade-off. And Ken can talk about how the project came
That's
about.
exactly right. As we are constructing a lake, we are losing or removing footage of stream. So in order to obtain the permit to build the lake, we had to have a mitigation project. And the stream that we were removing was assessed and a score was given to it. And we had to provide a like or like plus an additional amount of score somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of lucked into this area was on the DEP's dam safety site or list, where the dam was deemed unsafe at some point in the recent past and needed to be removed. Well, that's a prime opportunity to put stream back when you remove a dam and a stream or a lake, to restore stream and put it back. And what I understand is the water quality up here is just possible to beat nearly. So it was a perfect opportunity to go in and recreate some natural stream and wetland habitats and environment.
It looks beautiful.
It's a sight to see. I mean, the lake itself was beautiful when it was there, and it was really kind of an interesting project to remove that. But putting the stream back has been, quite an experience as well. So.
I'd just like to say Ken has just done an excellent job on this part of the project. He has managed it from beginning to end. It's been super, and you can see the results, how well it's turning out. And And Ken has taken the time to mentor some of our younger staff engineers as well. So he's been bringing them along and teaching them. So it's been a wonderful project, and we couldn't be more pleased with his accomplishments.
It's pretty extraordinary.
Fun.
Cool.
Great.
Good. Thank you.
Thanks, Ken.
And
Thank
yeah,
you.
it would be nice to, like Karen asked, to give us that side by side.
Yeah, I could put that together. And
Perfect. Thank you.
It's really neat. Thank you. Very nice to see.
So to be fair, we had a couple more guests arrive.
Sure.
I'm Mike Nolte.
Okay. Emily, would you like to speak to the board? Right, yeah. Yeah, well, Jenny spoke. You're more than welcome to speak if you'd like, or you don't have to, but I mean,
So Emily Mazzarelli, Assistant City Manager. I worked with Doug and Tim Ball and Mike, and we have had several meetings with MUB. Actually, one of my first couple weeks on the job, I had an individual come up to me and say, "Hey, MUB is building a reservoir. I'm an avid fisher hunter, and I would love to see recreation here. It's a great opportunity." And it was quite a few years ago, and just as we've been going through this, I know your board has been talking about this internally. We have a meeting set up for next week to try to hammer some of this stuff out. We have many emails back and forth agreeing essentially to what we're trying to have, trails for hiking or biking, bird watching, picnic areas, parking areas, restrooms, specific types of boating on the water. Everyone is okay with not having swimming and some of the other things. I was looking up plenty of information on, I think, Mike, you may have been the one who provided me with, I'm sure there's some acronym somewhere for what the standards are for recreation around reservoirs, and I think all of those would just be a really great asset to the community. I know there are concerns and hesitations about not having all of those details. I don't know what Mayor Celine said. Sorry, I was on the phone. But they're the same. If the roles were swapped, I know you guys would want to have some kind of assurance that before you spend money on design and getting all this stuff, that you can actually put it there. And without some of those termination clauses that, I think were originally in some of the contracts, we want to see this done expeditiously and properly. And we want to be able to have it to be, at no cost to MUB and no cost to the ratepayers. We have this one-time money. We're doing this great project. And just like, the great work that has been done that we saw in the video with Fike Run, I think that there's just an opportunity to kind of just create an asset for the community. And, I'd be happy. I know JT is meeting with us next week, but if there is any concern or questions about what we are talking about, we've met with the engineers at the dam. We've talked about what the DEP requirements may be for some of the assets we're trying to do. So I think we're trying to build the recreational assets at the Flegel Reservoir, while ensuring its integrity and just giving an opportunity for the community to have that there. So I would be happy to kind of meet with anybody or talk to anybody about those and concerns and how we may be able to mitigate that. Again, we have lots of emails of everyone agreeing to what should be done. It's just kind of the final pieces of paper where somebody has to sign on a line that seems to always be kind of the sticking point. So I'd love to be able to push through that so we can move forward with those projects and the Pocono Run project, and just getting these all done. So.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'm late.
Okay. Let's get back. to the wastewater treatment plant.
Okay, the percentage of work that completed is 98%, which really hasn't changed much. The painting subcontractor, they're about 45% completion. And by the way, we have to shut down the different units and drain them and clean them and so on and so forth. We believe they'll be here till Labor Day. They'll wrap it up. So we're keeping on that schedule.
Okay.
The Morgantown Industrial Park, Anderson Excavating, they've installed approximately 6,310 feet of water main. That represents about 90% of the total pipe, which has been installed. Weather permitting, they're planning to have the water main installation completed in the next couple of weeks. The water booster station site has been graded, and they'll start the foundation work and piping. But we are being held to the supply chain a little bit. Things are coming in slowly. Grouting is underway at the tank site to fill some voids there that were discovered. That should be finished in the next couple of weeks. And our other contractor, Green River, they've installed 6,660 feet of the gravity sewer main. That represents about 85% of all the pipe. All of the structures have been installed for the lift station at Mountaintop, and the electrical work is moving forward. And all of the structures for the industrial park lift station number 2 have been installed. So they are progressing quite well. We whether will cooperate, they can keep going. Supply chain will get better.
Okay.
Okay, we've successfully negotiated a contract with the L. Robinson Engineering Company to provide engineering services, which includes planning, design, bid administration, construction and construction monitoring services. When they have completed the preliminary engineering report, we would have them come to a board meeting and provide a presentation at that time to the board. And I recommend that the cost is $420,000 for the engineering services, and I recommend to the board that they approve the agreement.
Where's that on the budget, Mike?
That project will be partially paid for out of ARPA funds, $1 million grant from the county commission and a $1 million grant from the city of Morgantown. Once the opinions of cost is completed in the preliminary engineering report, we'll know whether we'll have to supplement those costs with a possible loan or internal dollars.
I'm slightly confused. When they've completed the preliminary engineering report, they'll come back to us with a presentation, but so the 420,000 is for their preliminary report?
No, this would be for all of the engineering services. This would, the engineering report, they would just come back and give a presentation on the project itself, what all it will have to entail, and talk about the opinion of cost at that time.
So we're paying $420,000 for them to come give that report, to do the assessment for that?
This contract would be for all engineering services, the engineering report plus final design, as well as inspection.
But how do you know the cost if they've not done it? What are they missing?
They've done an estimation of what they believe the project is going to entail. But until you get down into the actual design, you don't know if there's something that you didn't anticipate that would show up.
So why don't we wait until we know that before we approve it?
We customarily approve contracts like this with the engineering firms to do all of the work. And with the opinion of cost, once it comes out, we'll know, okay, this is where we'll be in for bidding purposes.
And then we'll separately, as a board, approve the issuance of a bid
Yes.
contract.
Right. The
And
board
then
has,
you will get the bids and bring them in, and then we'll approve the final
as
numbers.
well as any financing that
Right.
would have to take place. And of course, if we have to go to the bond market, then we would go to city council for approval.
This is the engineering that was over budget with the initial firm?
Yes, this was That's correct.
right?
Yeah, that's what I guess what I'm missing, because it doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but that's okay.
Well, make sure you understand, we're spending $420,000. I want you
That's why I was
to, I want you to
asking, yeah,
understand
yeah.
what we're approving.
That's why I was
So-
slightly confused.
But the detailed engineering, when they bring it in, they'll have specifications that will have to be complied with when it's gone out for bid.
Yes.
And we'll have a good sense at that time what the supply chain looks like for many of these products that would be listed on this bid specifications.
Oh, exactly. As well as what contractors are charging.
Right.
Because that, obviously can change, but this would be for the 420,000 would be for all of the engineering services, not just the preliminary.
So, but if the preliminary one comes back and says it's gonna be $1 million more, we're just gonna have to come up with another $1 million, even though it wasn't anticipated? Or we're gonna say, no, that's too much, scrap the project?
Well, I believe that
Am I missing?
once we know the final opinion of cost, then the board would make that very decision.
Okay,
Where we would go if we were going to borrow the funds or have rate increases, whatever it would entail.
so we're paying $420,000 to find out how much more we need.
No, 400. I
confused,
guess
I'm
okay. I'm
sorry.
not
I'm just
making. This would
dense.
be
I'm
for
just dense.
all services plus any resident inspection that would take place or the construction monitoring. If we don't do the project, the cost for construction monitoring would come out of the project, come out of that 420. If the board chooses not to go forward with the project because it's just too expensive, or rates would be too high, those design costs would come out of the 420.
Question on if there are any rates impacted on this, that would be on the storm sewer tariffs, not the general water or sewage.
It could be on the sanitary sewer.
It could be on the
as
sanitary
well
too.
as the storm sewer.
But it'd probably be a combination of those two.
Yes.
So
Comfortable?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I'm okay now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I move to approve the bid from and award a contract to E.L. Robinson Engineering for the Upper Pocono Sanitary and Stream Restoration Project in a base amount of $420,000 and to authorize the general manager to sign all documents related to said contract.
I second.
Okay, motion and second to approve the bid from E.L. Robinson for the engineering for the Upper Pocono Sanitary and Stream Restoration Project. Additional questions on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. All right, West Ridge.
Okay, we're continuing to meet with the developers of West Ridge and other developers in the western end of the county. We are, again, as you know, we have applied for the congressional directed spending grant, and we are in the
It's an earmark. You could just call it an earmark.
okay, earmark. I got you.
Politically correct.
So when we are also preparing a IJDC application, so those preliminary engineering reports are being prepared for the application as well. So I would expect, we should hear something in October for the earmark, and it would be around the same time for IJDC as well.
Okay. Office renovations.
Okay, the office renovations we've discussed, we've reached an agreement with Omni Architects. They would provide the customary architectural design services, which includes a workflow study. And I think that that will be a very important component here to make sure that all of our groups are working together and the building is situated as such. It would also have the mechanical and electrical services and any civil engineering and structural engineering services that would be required. The cost for the contract would be $249,000. And it would be the same thing. Once they have finished their preliminary report and have got an opinion of cost and some mock-ups, we would have them come to the board, so the board will make the final decision on how we would go forward.
If we proceed and an award is made for the actual construction of that, will Omni be the sort of project engineer, inspector on the project?
They
As we
they
plan.
will monitor the project,
Okay.
and then also we would have our own
Yeah.
staff members as
Right.
part of that as well.
We have any ballpark at this point idea on what the overall would be? I'm pretty surprised at just shy of $250,000 just for the architectural services.
No, they have not provided that number.
Where did they fall in the overall bids? Where,
We-
where did Omni come in with all the other bids?
We use a quality-based selection process, and so they were ranked number one, and we did not speak to any other architects about costs.
It shows Omni from other architect firms based on that criteria.
Based on an RFQ.
Yes, right on, based on the quality of the,
And then we ask for the bid.
then we start the project negotiations and felt that this was a reasonable price for what would be provided.
Is there any indication of how many square feet might be added to the building?
Not at this time, no.
Okay.
But we've talked to them about the different items that we had discussed.
I move to approve the bid from and award a contract to Omni Architects for the office renovation project in a base amount of $249,000 and to authorize the general manager to sign all documents related to said contract.
I'll second.
Motion and second to approve the bid from Omni Architects for the office renovation project for $249,000. Additional questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. White Park.
Okay, just an update on the White Park. We have received a proposed RFQ from the city for the design for the bridge across Coben Creek. We're reviewing that document, and so once we finish that, we will be making some comments back to the city. So far, we haven't received any other documents about the trail or the replacement of the trees.
Question on that. This has drug on for quite a while, waiting to get something from the city. Do we have any indication, any ballpark idea what the cost of the bridge or the tree replacements would be, or is it just generally the listing of the specifications that they would be putting out for bid?
We do have a ballpark idea for the bridge.
Yeah,
If if that came with the RFQ.
Okay.
But Ms. Mazzarelli might want to speak to that in more detail to the board, if you would like her to do so.
If she's comfortable speaking, yeah.
Thank you. So we shared a draft RFQ for the bridge, part of the original agreement with the trail and the bridges, to have the connections from the other side of White Park, requires us to cross, I don't know, the backwaters. I don't know what the official area is, but requires the bridge to get up and over from one side to the other. The trail designer has designed kind of the on-land part, and then you get more of a structural analysis. There's been a lot of early conversations about what the type of bridge may be with various folks at MUB, whether that's some kind of low water crossing or boardwalk or whatever that best effective design may be that meets the criteria. So I think in the initial RFQ and what we shared with MUB, I think maybe we were looking in the realm of $150-ish $1,000 for the cost of the construction of the bridge. We did reiterate in that it should be the most cost effective way to cross that. And so if they're able to do it, for $40,000, by all means, whatever makes sense to be put in there. So it's just like many of the projects, different design firms and consultants have their kind of strengths and what they're capable of designing. So this simply pulls that out. If you'll recall, there was originally 2 bridges, and this eliminated the kind of revised plan eliminated one of those bridges. So it's just the one bridge, and it'll loop back in on itself. So hopefully that'll provide some cost savings just from that standpoint. And, for ease of maintenance, we want that to be kind of the shortest length possible.
Is there any update on the trees?
Yes. So I am putting together the request for trees. We've been talking about what that would look like, and so it's going to be essentially a lump sum request or call for bids for trees, and basically say, you know, we're asking for prices to provide this number in this type of trees, and there'll, I'm sure, be some type of or equivalent. If for some reason during that time it'll be over a several year period, but they'll give us basically a kind of a locked in price that says we're guaranteeing you X number of trees for X amount of money, and they're more or less this size, going along with what was originally agreed upon. And so that way, the MUB will kind of have that number, whatever that number is, up front. As far as what that cost is, we can pay that up front and have the contractor basically put up some kind of bond that says, you know, because we want to spread that out so we don't have to plant all the trees in like a couple months, because there's hundreds of trees. But that gives us the time to spread them out over a couple years. If there's some tree that maybe don't make it, or we find that other ones need to be supplemented in some areas, or with the trail work, that can be spread out over a number of years. So it probably will be a 3-year delivery on the trees, but from MUB's standpoint, it'll be a one-time number that gets put for, that covers all the trees up front. So I am the one putting that together, and then we'll send that over when the draft is finalized for review and comment and edits as needed. And then we'll go ahead and put that out.
Okay. Thank you, Emily. Okay, Tom. Flood control study, Mike.
Okay, Strand continues to gather data on our current system to input into the hydraulic model they're creating. So staff has regular communication with Strand, and so it's just it's a process they're going through on collection of that data. And so as that process continues, I'll keep updating the board.
Okay.
I hate to be repetitive, but it's basically the same thing for the long-term control plan as well. They're gathering data and at this time, and they continue to have information exchanges with the staff.
Excuse me. Okay.
The Brownsfield grant, we've submitted the initial cooperative agreement application documents for the project. EPA has informed us that we are now in a position to move forward with advertising for an environmental consultants. So we're going to be talking with Carrie Staten and her team before we move forward with that process. So everything is in a good forward motion at this time.
Okay. Move on to general manager's report.
Okay, Baird Street, right now it's all the stormwater sanitary line is completed. Since Ken Hacker's with us this evening, I'd like to give him an opportunity. He's been our project manager, and to let him tell the board where we are and what he expects to see happen this week.
So we're finally at the end of it after many months of a couple month project. But we're scheduled to pave the end of Baird Street tomorrow. It's been prepped. They wanted to get there today, but it didn't work out. So that is to take place tomorrow. That will complete all the construction on Baird Street. And Thursday, they are scheduled to overlay the rail trail and take care of the damaged portion of it. So it will be from our construction project back to where we enter and exit on Valley Crossing. That will be relayed and returned to new asphalt as it was before we started. So
Perfect.
Baird Street will be done. And I can give you some before and after pictures of that, which are very telling of what we took on there. So excited to say that this one's going to be done.
The rail trail.
Oh, yes. Yeah. The rail trail will be finished Thursday. So that will probably take all day is the plan. So we'll be closing it.
Okay.
to get it overlaid.
Saw the announcement shared earlier today on social
Okay,
media.
great.
That's-
Yeah, we
yeah,
we got
reshared
that
by the
out
city,
and
too, so.
got everybody hopefully notified that
All right.
uses it regularly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
If you don't already, Mike, you might think about putting some of the before and after photos on the website just for the
Oh, okay.
the city, just for ratepayers to see. It's nice to see all the things that y'all accomplish.
Right.
And these are big transformations.
Show and tell.
Tax dollars at work.
No,
Nope,
No.
ratepayer
No,
dollars.
that's
at
true.
work.
ratepayers.
That's true.
That is true. University Avenue Waterline Replacement Project, our contractors completed the horizontal drilling now. We're of the new 10-inch HDPE water line, and so we are waiting for fittings. So once we need those fittings so we can get everything tied together, and then we'll do all the pressure testing and disinfection.
Okay, thank you, Mike.
Okay.
We'll move on to board member issues. Anybody have something I'd like to bring up to the staff?
I'd just like to say, thankful for the memory of my successor back in Indiana. I texted her real quick to ask what our architecture fees were on a couple of major projects I oversaw, and I'd like to withdraw my previous statement at the cost of the Omni. That does seem in line, so I want to withdraw that concern I had raised previously.
Legitimate concern, Eric. So,
I have a question. Yesterday we had, or I guess the day before yesterday, we had this big fire outside the city limits that required a number of volunteer fire departments to be in attendance. A great deal amount of the water was expended from our systems on that. I had one person who lived in, I think, Cedarwood, told me they knew that something was going on because they lost all the water pressure in their line. And I don't know if any other customers were so affected, but my question was, given the location of the fire hydrants in that area, and it is outside the city limits, do we have sufficient enough capacity, given all the growth and development that's occurred out the Stewartstown Road, to alleviate any future disruptions of water service when we have a major catastrophe like that?
To the best of my knowledge, we do, Tom. And I checked with Jacob Fischel.
Mm-hmm.
He's the assistant manager of water quality production, and I talked to him, texted back and forth with him Sunday evening, and this is the first that I've heard of a customer losing water pressure.
And it wasn't very long, but I did want to bring it to your attention.
But we didn't receive calls
Okay,
of
that's good.
mass outages or anything like that. So
And they weren't complaining; they were just observing.
they just knew something
right.
had gone down.
right.
So to my knowledge, yes, we did.
Okay. Okay. Yep.
all right. So I guess that concludes that part. So we need a motion to convene executive session.
I move to convene an executive session of the Board of Directors on the provisions of West Virginia Code 6-9A-4B2A to discuss personnel issues and under the provisions of West Virginia Code Section 6-9A-4B12 to discuss legal issues, and further move that the July 12th, 2022 regular meeting of the Board of Directors be adjourned at the conclusion of the executive session.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second to move to executive session. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so we'll move to executive session. Thank you all for attending. Ken, thank